It's tricky when you fall in love at work, but it's even trickier when your boss falls for you. Now, the recap of Animals. Shikamori Umi is an office worker who works at a broadcasting company. She does everything in her best to ensure the company and the work go as best as it should. As the series begins, she is seen running to the nearest supermarket to get a makeup item that they need for their new broadcast. When she waits for the attendant to package it for her, she bumps into a young guy and her phone falls and breaks. The boy offers to help her repair it, but she refuses and quickly runs to the studio. After the shooting of that day, her senior, Okamoto, appreciates her and tells her that their company is only going well because of her dedication. He also reminds her of the interview she is to have with the young owner of a great makeup company named Animal Beauty. She goes home and collapses even while she is washing her hair. Her sister complains that he is just an office slave, but she reminds her that without the money, they are nothing. She runs to work again to continue her duty and starts picking out questions to ask the owner of Animal Beauty, Sakaki Keisuke, and also his young model, Hina. During the interview, she sees the same boy who had bumped into her the day before. Before the interview, she notices how warm Sakaki is, and now he ensures he greets everyone he sees even though he is way richer. After the interview, she meets the boy again and he introduces himself as Kazeo Nagamine and gives her his contact, asking her if she is free the next day. She assumes he has an interest in her and says she is older, but he tells her he just wanted to repair her screen. She refuses to meet with him again and she leaves to continue her work. While editing the interview she did with Sakaki, she overhears Okamoto saying a junior staff member isn't feeling too good, and she just says that the boy should rest. This makes Okamoto give her the boy's task and she has to add it to her task. She tries to do all of these duties every day without rest until one day when she is to have a live interview with Hina. When Hina arrives, she shows Hina the way she would enter the scene and she stands afar to show the people on the scene the contents they should say. Suddenly, she falls asleep. When the presenters realize that they can't see their next words, one of them goes to meet her and wakes her up. The live show is still on, and she says on the live show that she hasn't gotten any sleep in days. They quickly go on commercial and end the show. After the show, she meets Hina to apologize for what had happened, but Hina tells her it isn't her fault, and she doesn't have to feel bad. She sits down and gives her phone number, telling her not to feel bad. She also collects Shikamori's number. Okamoto reads the news about the broadcast, and how everyone had assumed that he was overworking and bulking Shikamori, and they have all planned to boycott his channel. When Shikamori goes to apologize to him, he tells her that everyone has said he should allow her to rest, so she should go home and rest and don't come back. When she gets home, her sister advises her that there is no reason why she should continue working in that company because of their acts, but she reminds her that they won't have money for their rent if she doesn't work. Suddenly, she receives a call, and upon picking up, the caller is Hina. Hina visits and happily eats with them and also tells Shikamori that she has spoken with Sakaki and Daigo, the vice president of Animal Beauty, so that Shikamori can work at Animal Beauty. She asks Shikamori to go for the interview. Shikamori calls her colleague the next day to tell her about the news, and Okamoto asks to speak with her. He asks her to come to work immediately. Upon getting there, Okamoto says that he wants Shikamori to do an interview where they will laugh about the fact that she slept on stage, and she will ask for an apology. Shikamori feels bad about that, but Okamoto says if she doesn't do it, she can't return to the company. She decides to go for the interview with Animal Beauty, and she dresses the following day, and leaves home very early despite that her interview is by 1 p.m. She sees Kazeo, who is a photographer, in front of the office, and Kazeo asks why she is dressed in a suit when they asked her to dress casually. He takes her to a boutique, gets dresses for her, and even buys the shoes she picks. He makes her up and wishes her well. She looks so beautiful as she goes for her interview, and she meets Sakaki by the door. Sakaki reveals that he knew she was the one that had gone to get his favorite drink during his interview, and it only shows that she had attention to details. She appreciates him and goes for the interview. However, the interview doesn't go well as Daigo keeps poking her by asking crazy questions. She goes back home with the knowledge that she has failed the interview. She calls Kazeo to appreciate him for his help, and he calls her to meet him at a bar. He consoles her and tells her she looks beautiful in the morning while she says she is returning to her former self. She cries and decides she isn't returning to that shape, so the next day, she drafts her resignation letter and takes it to Okamoto. Okamoto is shocked to see that she could resign, but he doesn't behave as if he cares. The sisters spend their evening playing and joking despite knowing that they may not have rent again. Suddenly, she gets a call from Animal Beauty that she has been employed, and she is so glad. The following day, she calls Kazeo to share this good news, and he is glad for her but warns her to be careful in that company so she won't get bullied because that is how they behave there. She resumes work and she meets Daigo, who still doesn't open up to her and doesn't like her. He takes her to her mentor, Yuka, who is also a new staff member, but she is already a permanent staff member, and he also tells her she will be working at the marketing department. She goes for their first company meeting where she meets Sakaki, and he warmly welcomes her. She is shocked to see Kazeo at the company too. They proceed to the first meeting where they talk about the launch of their new product, and she doesn't understand all they are saying. Sakaki asks the staff for a suggestion on how to make the launch better, and they give several suggestions. He asks Yuka, who tells them that they can use influencers, and since influencers are the new set, they can distinguish themselves by using 100 influencers, and Sakaki accepts the idea. She goes home but tells Kazeo and her sister that she doesn't understand the life of makeup and beauty, and it is difficult. Her sister starts teaching her about the basics of makeup so she can get familiar with it, and Kazeo also encourages her in ways that she needs. She returns to work where they have another meeting and finds out that Eren, a great influence, won't be attending their launch. Sakaki asks Yuka to visit Eren and also tells Shikamori to follow her. At home, Shikamori spends time watching Eren's videos so she can know her better. She gets to work the next day and sees Yuka in the same makeup that Eren had used the night before. She says she likes it but her sister says she can't do it. Yuka offers to help her with it, and they go to meet Eren in that makeup. Eren liked Shikamori's makeup and commented about it, so Shikamori told her that it was Yuka that made her up, and Yuka had been Eren's fan for the past 5 years. She convinces Yuka to talk to Eren about how she had watched her videos for years and she succeeds in getting Eren to work with them. They happily return to the office and all the staff are glad. After work, Yuka appreciates her for what she has done as she tries to settle before leaving work. After she finishes her work, she leaves the office and overhears Sakaki telling Daigo that he is proud of the girls for what they had done, but Daigo said Shikamori had only tagged along and she didn't do anything. He reveals that he has no intention to make Shikamori a permanent staff member, and he only employed her to make Hina happy. She feels bad about this but goes home and returns to work the next day regardless. The shoot for the launch begins and she brings the dresses. She looks at Daigo and stares at him, and Kazeo comes to ask her why. As the shoot starts, they realize that the addresses used for both Eren and another influencer, Hiro, are wrong and they won't be joining the shoot as their box didn't get to them. She sees how disappointed Yuka is by this development, and she carries the box and says she will go and deliver it by herself. She starts running on the street to find Hiro and she eventually finds him while he is on a live show. She gives him the box, and he calls her the sleeping ad and even tells her to show it on his video. The staff watches this and Daigo realizes he must have been wrong as he thinks about what he had said the night before. After Shikamori left, Sakaki told Daigo that he was sure Daigo wouldn't employ Shikamori if he didn't see potential in her, and he was sure Shikamori would impress him. Shikamori ran a lot, and she doesn't know where she is. Kazeo calls her to ask if she is fine, and she appreciates him for calling. As she stands in shock and tears, Sakaki comes there and taps her. He cleans her tears and tells her she looks beautiful, then says they should leave. Upon returning to work, she is made a permanent staff member immediately. She is so excited that she has gotten that, and she announces it to her sister and her friend at home. She also thinks about how warm Sakaki is to her, and she thinks she is falling in love with him, and doesn't know if she will be able to control what it seems like she feels for him. She returns to work the next day and Daigo complains about how her makeup had been washed the day before because she was rushing. As a result, she is shown on the live video with bad makeup and they lose a lot of followers. He asks her how she intends to repair the issues she has caused, and one of them suggests that they should use the opportunity to launch their new waterproof makeup. However, they are in a cold season and there is no way they can launch it, so Sakaki suggests that they should make use of athlete to have the launch. Maybe skiers and other athletes who work in the snow. One of their best choices is Minami, a skier. She doesn't use makeup and they feel if they use her, they will sell their idea well to the public. Just as planned, they meet with Minami and her couch. When Minami sees Shikamori, she recognizes her from the live and asks about the makeup, and Shikamori gives her a pack as a gift. After the meeting with Minami's coach, they announce that Minami and her coach refused the deal. She goes ahead to ask if Minami refused it by herself, and they tell her yes. That seems like a shock to her. She meets with Kazeo that night, and the following day, she decides to travel to find Minami. She goes to Snow, and when Sakaki gets to work that day, they tell him what Shikamori has done. Shikamori waits in the cold before meeting Minami and asks her if she is sure about rejecting the deal because if she doesn't like makeup, she won't be on that live show. Minami admits that she will regret it but says she doesn't want to be seen as a traitor to the industry, so she has no choice. Shikamori asks for a final favor from Minami, which is to make her up. She accepts, and when Minami sees how beautiful she looks, she says she doesn't want to regret, so she would do it. They meet her coach, who accepts but reminds her she has to be in Canada in 2 days, and they won't be back until 3 months. At about the same time, Sakaki comes in, and he says he will bring his team the next day for the shoot. He calls Daigo, who reluctantly accepts, and he takes Shikamori to the hotel to spend the night. While they slept in different rooms, they had a hot bath in a divided hot spring and they talked. The following day, Hina comes to the city with Kazeo and they are shocked to see Sakaki there. They go to the show to have the shoot, and both Hina and Minami use the company's makeup so they can look good. As the shoot goes on, Hina and Minami go inside to take a rest, and Minami tells Hina that she has realized that it isn't just the sportsman who is involved in sport, it is everyone who is involved, from the coach who does her best to prepare the sportsman to the supporters from far and wide, so she has to ensure she put in her best without disturbing anyone. On the other hand, Kazeo and Shikamori have fun with the entire shoot. They talk and laugh and Sakaki looks at them in admiration. After the shoot ends, the team is cold, so Sakaki advises that they use the hot spring in the hotel. Kazeo says he isn't interested and he wants to get food. As he walks away, Shikamori follows him and they go out together. They get a meal, laugh, and play. Sakaki and Hina come there to eat too. Before ordering the meal, Mina tells Sakaki that she wants them to snowboard so that since they are already there, they can as well just do it. He tells her okay and he gets his meal and looks at Kazeo and Shikamori. He goes to join them on the table and he invites them to go snowboarding too, although he says that he isn't interested. They insist that it will be bad for them to leave him alone, so it is best he also joins them. As a result, he reluctantly decides to go with them. They take the swing on the snow and Shikamori feels like Kazeo is distant. She has a conversation with him, but he claims there is nothing wrong. She calls her sister, who advises her that since she is the oldest, she is the one that should make things right. On the other hand, Hina suspects that Sakaki is falling in love with Shikamori. She has a conversation with Kazeo, who tells her that he doesn't think so and says she isn't meant to be gossiping about them. They start snowboarding and as they do so, Shikamori keeps trying to ensure Sakaki is good and Kazeo gets jealous. So when Kazeo is boarding and sees Shikamori, he turns to the other side and Shikamori gets concerned. She runs after him and she hits him as he is about to take some pictures. She stands up and tells him that she doesn't know why he is angry at her, but she is sorry for whatever she has done, so he shouldn't ignore her like that again. He admits that he was also wrong, so he apologizes to her, and they make up. He takes her pictures too. On the other hand, Sakaki asks Hina if she wants to eat. She says yes, but also tells him that she wants to ask him for something the next day. They finish their fun and they return to work the next day. To Shikamori's shock, Diego brings her drugs for her bone pain and tells her to continue working. While Kazeo edits his pictures, he sees Shikamori's picture and smiles. Also, Hina dresses up and puts on makeup, then goes to meet Sakaki in his office. He asks why and she reminds him of the discussion she talked about. He asks if they should have lunch together, but she says no and says she will say it there. She asks him if he is in love, but he says no. She says she can see that he is in love, but he says he is the one who has the problem, and he should know if he needs a solution. She reminds him that he is known for always ignoring his problems. He doesn't deny that she is right but tries to walk away. She tells him she has been watching him for a long time, and she knows he has a very good heart. She goes nearer to him, and she kisses him. He tells her he is sorry, but he doesn't see her in that way. She takes her leave, but before going, she tells him that he needs to figure himself out. He has been all in about the company since his 20s and now he doesn't have a life for himself. He should figure out what he likes, who he loves and who he wants to spend the rest of his life with. That day, one of the staff, Sukatari, is considering a low-budget makeover for teens and he tells his colleagues about it, but they don't buy the idea. Shikamori and Yuka talk about the idea on their way home and Shikamori says she loves how Yuka had been dedicated to makeup from her teens, but Yuka in return says she respects Shikamori more. They go home with that conversation and Shikamori's sister, Nagi, tells them that she has a date and she wants to dress cute. After they ask who the boy is, Shikamori calls Kazeo so he can dress Nagi up and Yuka also offers to make her up. After they beg Kazeo for a while, he accepts, but he tells Nagi that she doesn't have to spend her money to buy great clothes to look good, and they can just raid the adult's wardrobe. Upon returning to work, Sakaki thinks of Hina's words and he realizes that he likes Shikamori. He confides in Daigo, who takes a while to accept the reality, but says he had been feeling it too, that they have a vibe. Since Sakaki hasn't been in love before, he doesn't know how to deal with it, so Daigo tells him to ask Shikamori on a date. He gives him coffee to give Shikamori and Sakaki does so. He asks Shikamori if there is anything she wants to try, and when she tells him, he tells her to go with him. She wonders why and he says it's just for a survey to know their clientele, and it's nothing, so she accepts. The adults gather their clothes for Nagi to pick the one that fits and Kazeo takes all the pictures of her in the dress. As they talk about clothes, Nagi picks one of the dresses from Hina, asking if her sister can wear it to the date with the boss. Hina is heartbroken, but she tries to hide it. The adults couldn't choose a dress for the girl and she decided to go with any of the dresses that fit her style, and she went with her normal dress. As they dispatch, one of the staff notices Hina's demeanor, and Hina hugs her to cry. Nagi goes on her date and she returns to her sister with stories of how awesome the boy is. As they drink, Shikamori tells Nagi to invite Kazeo, but before he comes, she has gotten drunk. Nagi tells him that she feels Shikamori is concerned about her date with the boss, and this reality shocks Kazeo. Kazeo takes a drunk Shikamori home. He tries to have a conversation about the date but stops himself. When she almost falls, he holds her and gets emotional again. Following a successful date, Nagi takes gifts to the adults at work. She finds out about the new deal for teens from Sukatari, and she tells Sukatari that it is underwhelming and won't sell. She explains that the reasons teens want animal beauty is because they think it is classy and they prefer saving their money for months to get it. For instance, it feels cheap and with bad designs and packaging, they won't want it. The adults realize she is right. She walks home with Shikamori with the pictures Kazeo has snapped for her. She looks at the picture saying Kazeo is a great person and she won't mind him becoming her brother-in-law. Shikamori quickly stops her, and she reminds Shikamori that she was the one that had said before that Kazeo is just a little brother to her, and Shikamori tells her she is right. Nagi helps her in picking clothes for the date, and even ensures that she dries her hair. Daigo also helps Sakaki with the date, and tells him that he must ensure he asks Shikamori if she has a boyfriend so they can know where they are proceeding to from that stage. They meet each other and go to the restaurant where Sakaki mentions that he has no girlfriend. He says he hasn't had any since high school because he has been busy with work, and she also reveals she is just the same. He asks if she is now open to having a boyfriend, but she says she is still busy with work. After the meal, he asks if they could do it again and says he doesn't think they finished their research, so she agrees to meet him again. Upon getting home, Nagi invites Kazeo to their house to eat. While Kazeo and Shikamori clean up, he asks about the date, and Shikamori says it wasn't a date but research, and it was Nagi who picked her dress so she didn't intentionally wear her best dress. Upon arriving at work, she asks her senior, Kyoka, if she could do a proposal for the company. Kyoka offers to proofread it when she is done. She goes home and tries to find inspiration for the proposal, and when Nagi says she loves Kazeo's pictures and she doesn't know how to tell him, she realizes she could do the proposal by showing Kazeo's work to the world. She writes the proposal about a photo exhibition between Kazeo and Animal Beauty, and all the staff love the idea, including Sakaki. Sakaki finds himself staring at her, and he speaks with Diego. As they talk, Hina comes in and says Sakaki has to be expressive with his feelings. Daigo reminds Hina she is also in love with Sakaki, but Hina says she has been rejected and will move on, so she needs to help her friend, Sakaki, get the woman of his choice. She takes the place of his relationship advisor. She goes to meet Kazeo and tells Kazeo of Sakaki's intention to pursue Shikamori, and tells Kazeo to move on too. She talks about how she knows Kazeo is only working to earn money and he doesn't love working with Animal Beauty. The following day, Shikamori dressed in the dress Kazeo had picked for her to pitch the project to him. Sakaki sees her and says she looks good. She meets Kazeo and shows him the project, but he rejects her offer and asks if his name can be taken off the exhibition plan. He reveals that he wishes to travel to a foreign company and take monochrome pictures in a place where no one will know him, and if he is associated with a popular brand like that, it will create a dent in his name. She tries to convince him that she likes his work, but he doesn't care, and he tells her she doesn't know anything. In tears, she walks away from the bar. She goes to Kyoka to change her proposal, and she is sad for a few days. Suddenly, Sakaki goes to meet Kyoka for a discussion. Sakaki asks him why he had refused to work, and he explains to him that he has his passion, and he is no longer interested in working for money, and he wants to do what he likes. Sakaki then advises him that if that is his wish, then he should resign and go immediately. He admits that it will be too much on the company to bear, but he should go for his want first, and if he settles, they can always call him to work with them. Kazeo is shocked that Sakaki accepted immediately, but Sakaki says it will affect him, but they will be fine. Kazeo talks about Shikamori and says he also likes her, but he has given up, so Sakaki should go for his choice and he should ask Shikamori on a date again because Shikamori took the last one as work. At home, Nagi wishes to attend a faraway college and Shikamori promises to support her. Upon arriving at work, Sakaki calls Shikamori aside and asks her for the date, and tells her that it doesn't just work and he has something to tell her. Her new proposal is a lipstick which the company begins production. Okamoto comes to see her, inviting her to his show. Although she admits it's a good one, she expresses herself and says isn't interested. She asks him if he would rather publicize their new lipstick, and he agrees to do that. She announces the good news to her colleagues, goes home to give Nagi her savings so she can prepare for college, and tells Nagi that she hasn't been able to think and do things for herself, but she is glad Nagi is making deliberate choices for herself, and she will support Nagi. Nagi reveals to her that Kazeo said he has friends in the college that can help her. She realizes that Kazeo and Shikamori haven't reconciled, but Shikamori says it's not a big deal. Upon getting to work, Sakaki tells them they have been getting new clients from across the countries and he wants them to launch their lipstick by using influencers across the world. Since Yuka can speak English, she should deal with pitching to the influencers and Shikamori should help out. Okamoto visits the company again and they show him the lipstick. After the meeting, Shikamori returns to see donuts in the company, and she just eats it. She finds out later that it is Kazeo who had brought it as a goodbye because he is leaving Japan next month and they have to get a new photographer. Shikamori is heartbroken that he didn't tell her, and Hina tells Sakaki about this. Sakaki feels he should not have asked her on that date because she is presently working on a work deal, and she still has to deal with Kazeo's absence, so asking her out again will add to her burden. While Hina thinks he is right, she reminds him that he should stop thinking about others and be selfish. He tells her to do the same and stop thinking about him instead of nursing her heartbreak. She insists she is fine and awkwardly wants to walk out. Shikamori is so angry that Kazeo didn't bid her goodbye. She goes to bed angrily, and the following day, she finds out that Yuka has been unable to seal a meeting with the foreign influence, Sue. They try to work on it together, but Daigo tells them it's past work hours. They go to Shikamori's house and continue with the work. While Yuka keeps conversing with Sue, Shikamori keeps having meetings on the show they want to have with her former company. On the night of the show, she bids Yuka well in preparation for Yuka's meeting with Sue the next day. She goes to her show, and after the show, she sees a message from Sue in English. When she interprets it, it says that Sue doesn't want to work with them again because she thinks they aren't trustworthy and can't keep to their words. On the other hand, Kazeo recommends his assistant, Oda, to Sakaki and also tells him that he doesn't intend to see Shikamori until he leaves Japan. Upon returning to work, Shikamori asks Yuka what had happened, and Yuka reveals she had overslept and she didn't attend the meeting with Sue. She had sent Sue a letter to apologize, but she isn't getting a reply, so the deal is off. In tears, Yuka apologizes and Shikamori blames her for a while before realizing that she is also wrong. She apologizes to Yuka and walks away. Sakaki and Kazeo had been watching them, and Kazeo ran after Shikamori to calm her down. But she doesn't give him an audience. She tells him to leave her, but he says no, and when she asks why, he says because he likes her. She is dumbfounded by this revelation. He reveals that he didn't want her to know about it, but it is impossible at that point. He brings out her monochrome picture he had snapped, telling her that before taking that picture, he had felt he could continue the way he was, but after taking the picture, he realizes that things like that are what he wants to do. He gives her the picture, and she asks him what she should do. He tells her that she should be herself, and become someone she also loves. He bids bye-bye, telling her he is leaving the following week. She returns to work the next day and apologizes to Kyoka for the mistake, but Kyoka says Sakaki is already dealing with it. Sakaki calls Daigo and asks him if he knows about Yuka and Shikamori overworking themselves for the company. He admits that he knew but said he accepted it because he felt it was for the best of the company, and he is very sorry. Sakaki says he doesn't have to apologize and Sakaki is the one at fault. He admits that he had relied on Daigo too much, and Daigo is shocked to hear that since he hadn't said much before. Sakaki says that he has been taking time to think about himself and know what he stands for. Yuka also returns to work and apologizes to Shikamori, but she tells her she doesn't have to apologize as she is also at fault. They all reconcile. A day into Kazeo's trip, he meets Shikamori at the bar. They eat and talk. She tells him she will do as he had advised and she will ensure she finds herself and makes herself become a person she loves. She appreciates him for all he has done for her and begs him to take care of himself before bidding him goodbye. She smiles at herself as she goes home. Upon getting to work the next day, Daigo locks her outside to work overtime and tells her that disobedient staff won't be allowed. As she jokingly struggles to enter, Sakaki comes there and tells her she has 3 choices: enter and work, go home and stay home, or leave to meet the person she wants to meet. She realizes she can't do without Kazeo, so she takes the last option and runs to the airport. Daigo asks Sakaki why he had done that, and he says he has realized that the Shikamori that he likes is the one that smiles when Kazeo is there, and he doesn't want anything other than that. Shikamori goes to the airport and confesses her feelings, sealing it with a kiss. She gives him back her picture, telling him that in a long-distance relationship, he will need to see her picture well. He returns her kiss and they hug. When she gets back to work, she submits her resignation letter. Sakaki is shocked because he rarely receives such a letter. He asks why she is resigning and she tells him it is because his company is a good one and she will get too comfortable and won't be able to find herself. He shakes her hand and wishes her well. She goes home and decides she wants to form her own company. Animal Beauty organizes a set forth for her, and they all laugh and are happy. Hina goes to meet Sakaki asking how he feels and he says he is glad to see everyone happy. She tells him he is back to his old self where all he thinks about is others and not himself. He concludes that maybe that is just who he is. She tells him she will remain with the company, even if others go, and she leaves to go home. Before leaving, she tells Daigo that she has decided that she won't give up on Sakaki. As she steps out, Sakaki offers that they leave together. Even when he gets to his house, he tells her he wants to walk her home and they play on the way. The party ends and Shikamori goes to have a video call with her boyfriend, showing him her new work card and talking about how hopeful she is to get her first client. She suddenly receives a call from a client she met the day before. She picks up and confirms that they may be sealing a deal. She happily announces this to Kazeo, who takes her lovely picture on the call as the series ends.